Today's topic will be Lotus Feet of Lord Krishna, and before we say anything about it, we wanted to start by glorifying our spiritual masters, Vaishnavas, and the Supreme Lord in a traditional way. Om Gyantimirandasya Gnandana Shalakaya Chaksharanmilitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanepya Vaishnavepya Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vijay Mahaprema Parambur Nirmaya Kshete Adamusha Purushavam Tevanan Sudasa Sudasatmaka Ilang Krishishta Bhagavan Vacham Sime Hare Krishna. So we will be discussing the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and I hope everyone can see them quite nicely. And this particular topic is kind of unique because it is based on, of course, statements of Srila Prabhupada that there are connections between Lord Krishna's body and the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And specifically, he mentioned that the first two cantos are Lord Krishna's two lotus feet. And of course, he was saying that the 10th canto is his smiling face. And so one of Srila Prabhupada's prominent disciples, His Holiness Suhotra Maharaj, who's been quite a prominent scholar, made a research. And unfortunately, he couldn't finish the research because he left this world. But then one of his disciples, he completed the research on his behalf. And he came up with very interesting analysis. How is it that Bhagavatam represents Krishna, and specifically the first two cantos represent his lotus feet? And he described that the first canto has 19 chapters, and Krishna's lotus feet have 19 special signs at the soles. And second canto has 10 chapters. And so, of course, Krishna's two lotus feet have 10 toes. And each of them, whether signs or toes, are corresponding to each chapter. And so basically he described the entire Bhagavatam in the same way, all 12 cantos in minute details, including how 10th canto represents Lord Krishna's smiling face. And 10th canto has 90 chapters. And so Krishna's face has 90 parts which correspond with the chapters. So I found it very interesting in many ways. Firstly, Krishna's lotus feet and thinking of Krishna's lotus feet, meditating on them, is mentioned so many times in Bhagavatam. And also a mechanical way of remembering the signs on Krishna's lotus feet is a bit hard. But if you connect it to the 19 chapters of the first canto, which are here, then it becomes much easier, plus it makes perfect sense. So I was thinking that it's something interesting we could introduce the devotees to. And so I'll try to be as brief as possible to make sure that we are within the time limits. So without further ado, we'll start with the very first sign, and we're going from, this is the bottom of Lord Krishna's left foot. And so we start with the sign of a fish. And fish is a very interesting sign because fishes, of course, Srila Prabhupada was giving the analogy that in the same way as fish cannot live without the water, no matter what you give to the fish, so the soul cannot live without Krishna, or our natural habitat is spiritual world rather than the material world. And so we got to go back into our natural habitat. So in this sense, the fish is compared to the soul. And it's very interesting that fish has been the original sign for early Christians. And fish is known for different qualities, and you can see how big the fish's eyes are. And fish is known for being extremely curious. And, curiosity kills the cat, as we know, but curiosity also kills the fish. So this is how the fishermen are catching the fish, by tapping into the fish's curiosity. And curiosity is very interesting quality, which can be used for spiritual and material purposes. It's very interesting that the sixth canto, the central canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which represents Radharani and her merciful nature, starts with the description of material curiosity, which killed a spiritual life of a very wonderful Brahmana, Ajamil, and he became degraded because he became curious about material life, and so he gave up Krishna consciousness. But the same curiosity used in Krishna's service, and these are the sages of Naimisharanya. And so the first sign, fish, and the first chapter of the first canto is questions by the sages. And so the sages are given as an example of those who attained perfection through jigyasu. As you know, Lord Krishna describes the 4 types of fortunate people who come to him. And one of those are jigyasu, inquisitive or curious, you can say. And that's why it says, Tasmat gurum prapadeta jigyasu shaya uttamam, that one should approach a spiritual master and be very inquisitive, curious about Krishna consciousness, and that can help one to advance. So the sages of Naimisharanya advanced by their curiosity because they were asking so many questions to Goswami. And so next sign is half moon, which is above the fish. And half moon is a very interesting sign. Of course, we know that Krishna is known as Krishna Chandra, but this is not the full moon, it's a crescent moon. And actually, the second chapter of the first canto is Divinity and Divine Service. And this second chapter is very much like the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which gives the contents summary of the Bhagavad Gita. So the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam gives summary of all the principles of Krishna consciousness, of all the principles of devotional service, and that's why it's called Divinity and Divine Service. Very exciting chapter. So it's Krishna's glories, but they just start manifesting. That's why it's not full moon, it's just a crescent moon. So the third sign, which is above the moon, is the triangle. And triangle is the sign of Krishna, because Krishna is described in Bhagavatam as Trayadisha. And Trayadisha literally means triad, same like in English, you have triads, right? Everything within threes category, triads, and Isha means master. So Trayadisha means the master of triads, because Krishna is the master of so many types of triads. And just give us examples: 3 modes of material nature, and Krishna is above the modes, and he is the controller, the master of the modes. And another triad is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and there are so many other triads. I'm sure if I ask you, you will come up with so many, right? 3 worlds, 3 bhuvana, 3 phases of time, etc., etc. Unlimited triads, and Krishna is the master of all of them. And actually, third chapter of the first canto is Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And so Krishna is the origin of everything. And he comes into this world and he manifests unlimited variety through his different incarnations. And so next sign is 4 pots, you can see. And those pots, they are used, of course, for different purposes. But this is the view from the top of one of those pots. This is the Yagya Kunda, and here you can see beneath the coconuts there are 4 pots. And what the pots are used for, what they represent 4 Vedas. So chapter 4 is describing this very interesting topic, which is the appearance of Sri Narada. And if you think about it, the Sri Narada appeared when Vyasadeva was, after he divided Vedas into the 4 parts, and the 4 pots at the Yagya Kunda are actually representing the 4 Vedas, right? Sama Veda, Yajur, and Atharva Veda. But this is the formality, but the Vedas have the essence. And what is the essence of the Vedas? And as a clue, what is the topmost yagya, which is recommended in the Vedas? And of course, this is the Sankirtan yagya, chanting of the holy name. And Narad Muni is the perfect Sankirtan leader for everyone. And so, and when Vyasadeva was contemplating on where did he go wrong, why he's still unsatisfied despite of compiling all the Vedas, and then Narad Muni helps him to understand that the problem was that he missed glorifying the Supreme Lord, and if he glorifies the Supreme Lord in a separate scripture, he will be happy. And so this is what Srila Vyasadeva is doing. And then next, Narad Muni is giving him specific instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam. And sorry. He gives him specific instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam. And the next sign is the very interesting sign. And there is nothing to be scared of, because this is the sign of a hoof print of a calf. And of course, Krishna is bearing this sign on his foot because he is very fond of calves and cows. And incidentally, as we understand today's Gopashtami as well, the day when Krishna graduated from becoming a real cowherd boy, and Gopa, and the Bhagavatam is also describing how, by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one can cross over the troubles of the material existence as easy as one can cross the little puddle of water within the hoof print of a calf. And so this is contained within the hoof print of a calf. And this is described in the 10th canto, chapter 14, text 58. This is one of the prayers of Lord Brahma. Samashitaye padapalavaplavam, mahatpadam punyayasho murare, pavam buddhir vatsapadam, parampadam, padam yati padam natesham. And so vatsapadam means the hoof print of a calf. And so the translation is, for those who have accepted the abode of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, as is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Their goal is Parampadam Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. And so this chapter 5 is giving very powerful instructions by Narad Muni, glorifying both the power of devotional service and hearing, and which starts with hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord. So next sign on Krishna's lotus feet is very interesting bow, which doesn't have a string, bow without a string. But bow does not exist without the string. But actually the idea is that the string is there, but no one can see that string because it's a spiritual bow. Bow is like devotee's life, and the string is the role the Supreme Lord is playing in the devotee's life. And so chapter 6 is conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. And in this particular conversation, Narad Muni describes his own example, his own life story, which is really amazing. I mean, one of the most exciting things is to hear the stories of the devotees, how they joined Krishna consciousness. And so in here, Narad Muni himself tells how he became a devotee, and we can see so many amazing episodes in which he realized Krishna's presence in his life. And so then next sign, which is a little higher, is a sign of a conch. And of course, conch is a sign of victory. As you remember in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, when the Pandavas were blowing the conches, then the Kauravas' hearts shattered. And so we understand that Pandavas became victorious externally, but it's not the external victory which is the most important. There is much greater type of victory, and that is described in the 7th chapter, which is the son of Drona punished. And actually this chapter literally begins the narration of Bhagavatam, and it describes what happened after the battlefield of Kurukshetra, how Ashwatthama murdered the 5 sons of the Pandavas, and Arjuna was chasing after him, and they were fighting with Brahmastras, and finally Arjuna, with the help of Krishna, captured Ashwatthama, and he actually promised Draupadi to bring him back so that she could kill him and be satisfied in this way. And they wanted to kill Ashwatthama in front of Draupadi, but then Draupadi started pleading for his release, because she said he's the son of a Brahmana, Dronacharya, he's son of our teacher. I'm already crying because I lost all my sons, and he is the only son of his mother. So if he is killed, she will be crying in the same way as I'm crying. So I wanted his life to be spared. And this is really amazing. I mean, you can imagine parents, especially mother, losing one child, and you just imagine, the murder of the child. Will she spare him? Most likely not, but here Draupadi spares the murder of all her children. None of her children survived. They were all killed by Ashwatthama. And so this is the kindness and love and compassion of a Vaishnavi, of a great devotee of Krishna. So this is really amazing. This is a real victory over all sorts of material conditions and attachments. And so next sign, which is next to the conch, is 2 concentric circles within each other. And so this is the sign of Akash, the sign of ether. And of course, it indicates that in the same way as Krishna is as all-pervading as ether is all-pervading in this world. So he's inside and outside. And so this is sign number 8, and chapter 8 is prayers by Queen Kunti and Pariksit saved. So from outside, Krishna is associating with Kunti, hears her prayers, and from inside he enters into Uttara's womb and saves the remaining descendant of Pandavas, who is Maharaj Pariksit. So then, this is prayers by Queen Kunti and Maharaj Pariksit saved within the Uttara's womb. Then next sign is what do you call it? Hectagon. Anyway, this is actually, it's called the star of Lakshmi in Vedic culture, and it indicates Ashta Lakshmi. So it indicates 8 types of Lakshmis, all kinds of fortunes available to one who is connected to this sign. And of course, Krishna is the source of all fortune. And those who are connected to him, they also become fortunate. And the chapter, this is sign number 9. And the chapter 9 is the passing away of Bhishmadev in the presence of Lord Krishna. And so Bhishmadev, despite of apparent great misfortunes he had to undergo his whole life, but he was greatly fortunate because he was only focused on the Supreme Lord throughout his life and serving him and pleasing him. And that's why he got the great fortune, not only die at his will, but to actually die in the direct presence of the Supreme Lord after giving a very powerful class to all the Pandavas, especially Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was lamenting for the loss of so many lives for his sake, as he thought. And next sign, that there are 4 jumbo fruits which are surrounding the star of Lakshmi, and this is sign number 10, and chapter 10 is departure of Lord Krishna for Dwaraka. So Krishna leaves Hastinapur to go to Dwaraka, and all the residents of Hastinapur, they have to experience sour sweet of Krishna's separation in the same way as jumbo fruits are sour and sweet at the same time. And actually our planet is known as Jambudvip, so the 4 jumbo fruits on Krishna's feet are also indicating that he is the master of Jambudvip. And so next, this is Krishna departing to Dwaraka. And next sign is swastika. And swastika is, of course, a sign of peace and fortune. And this is sign number 11, that there are 4 swastikas around the star of Lakshmi. And chapter 11 is Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwaraka, and of course, a great fortune of receiving the Lord in his capital is described, and everything was amazingly auspicious when the Lord has arrived there. And so next sign is Vajra, which is the weapon of Indra. Vajra is actually a weapon which shoots lightnings and thunderbolts. They come from Vajra. And so especially in the dark, in the night, the lightning lights everything up for a short time. And at that time, Lord Krishna is already planning to depart. And after he would depart, then the Kali Yuga would set in, and the last remaining descendant of Pandavas, the last remaining light, source of light in the darkness of Kali, will be Maharaj Pariksit's rule. And so Maharaj Pariksit was very powerful and very devotional ruler. And so chapter 12, this is sign number 12, and chapter 12 describes the birth of Emperor Pariksit. And then sign number 13 is elephant's god, the device for controlling elephants. And chapter 13 is Dhritarashtra quits home. Dhritarashtra became very attached to his position, but then Vidura came back and he had to poke him with his very sharp words, and he led him towards Himalayas, helped him to achieve perfection despite of all the sins he performed. By the mercy of the devotee, he was led in the right way, on the right path, even though he was blind. But this spiritual blindness was removed by the mercy of Vidura, who acted as his spiritual mentor. So then next sign is flag, of course, victory flag. Krishna is victorious. And chapter 14 is the disappearance of Lord Krishna, which means he went back to the spiritual world after he became victorious in achieving everything he wanted to achieve in his mission. And yeah, Lord Krishna is always victorious when he appears, and when especially when he disappears from this world. And next sign is umbrella. An umbrella is, of course, meant for sheltering us from bad weather, and bad weather set in when everyone found out about the disappearance of Krishna. And of course, everyone please mute yourself. And then Pandavas decided to, they didn't know what to do. And so again, the instructions of Vidura gave them shelter and helped them to achieve perfection. So chapter 15 is the Pandavas retire timely. And then once Lord Krishna left and Pandavas left, and so Kali, these are the Pandavas getting instructions from Srila Vyasadeva on their way to Himalayas. And so next chapter is how Pariksit received the age of Kali. And despite of the age of Kali being present, because of the rule of Maharaj Pariksit, everything was totally prosperous. There was amazing prosperity, which is described in this chapter. And then next sign is Sudarshana Chakra, which is, of course, the Lord's weapon. And next chapter is how Pariksit received the age of Kali. And of course, Pariksit was ready to punish the Kali, but next chapter 17, punishment and reward of Kali. Maharaj Pariksit was ready to punish Kali, but he realized that Kali's time had come, and so he spared his life. And so Sudarshan Chakra is not just the weapon of the Lord, but it also represents the wheel of time. And so you can see the clock is like a wheel as well. And so he realized Kali has to serve the Lord. I mean, we might lament that if Maharaj Pariksit would actually not spare Kali and kill the Kali, we wouldn't have all the troubles of the age, but then we wouldn't have mercy of Lord Chaitanya as well. So Maharaj Pariksit, being perfect devotee, was not envious of Kali, as even Kali, as Shukadev Goswami explains. And so he actually spared Kali's life despite of all his atrocities. So next chapter is Maharaj Pariksit cursed by a Brahmana boy. And next sign on Krishna's lotus feet is very interesting line, which goes between the big and next toe. And you can see that this line is pretty straight, but then it gets, it ends with curve, with sudden curve. And so, yeah, Maharaj Parikshit's life was really perfect, but then he made this mistake. He put this dead snake on the sage's shoulder, and he got cursed for being influenced by, momentarily being influenced by anger, cursed to die, which was of course overreaction by the Shringi. It says that Kali Yuga really started after Brahmanas started abusing their power. And Maharaj Pariksit, however, accepted it as Krishna's mercy. And he realized he's the only obstacle on the way of Kali. And if he leaves, then Kali will have full power. So he decided to surrender to the will of the Supreme Lord. But then he became very fortunate. And the last sign is the barley corn under the base of the Lord's toe. It's not a barley corn, but kind of representation of the barley corn. And barley, the seed is very small but very powerful, as we understand that the seed gives rise to a huge plant or even a tree. And so then like we say, the grain of wisdom. And so the very last chapter is the appearance of Shukadev Goswami on the scene, and then Shukadev Goswami gives Maharaj Pariksit full wisdom. Despite of being very young, he is acknowledged as the greatest authority who could give Maharaj Pariksit full wisdom. And so, yeah, of course, the seed on Krishna's feet also represents that he's the seed of all existence. Everything emanates from him. So this is the very short version of the presentation on the signs on Krishna's 19 signs on the soles of Krishna's feet. So yeah, we can spend another few minutes for answering any questions or any comments if anyone has. We wanted to thank Mother Vishaka for being with us, and if she has something to say, we'll be very honored to hear from her as well.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your presentation. I had never heard before the relationship between the different symbols on Krishna's lotus feet and the Bhagavatam, so that was very fascinating and thoroughly enjoyable.
Thank you.
Thank you for your study of that and for imparting it in such a clear and concise way. Much appreciated.
With your blessings, Hare Krishna. We always need blessings of seniors. Looks like we have something within the chat. Okay, just appreciations. So let's see if anyone has any questions. We can try to say a few words.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Echoing on from what Mother Vishaka was saying, I've never seen it presented like this, and it's wonderful to have this meditation. I wondered if you might share some thoughts on how we can incorporate this into our kind of day-to-day practice of Krishna consciousness, and some thoughts on what particular is there particular times or particular parts of our day that we should maybe contemplate on the Lord's lotus feet with these particular symbols in mind. If you could share some thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Very nice suggestion to move from Sambandha into Abhidheya, from theory into practice. Jagannath Charan Prabhu, thanks for this. And so, yeah, I mean, all these symbols and all the chapters of Bhagavatam, the first canto of Bhagavatam, in that sense, are very instructive for us. And so I would say there are so many lessons we could follow in this regard, but probably the most powerful lesson, which is coming again and again, is how great devotees, they do not become either too much elated when there is so-called happiness, or not aggrieved when there are stressful situations, and they just take it as Krishna's mercy. And yeah, humility and dependence on Krishna's will. And so I think if we take shelter of the two lotus feet of the Lord properly, then these two symptoms will be most prominent in our lives. Humility and dependence on Krishna's mercy. And we can see that, you know, there are so many senior Vaishnavas, like Mother Vishaka herself is the very prominent example of these two qualities, humility and dependence on Krishna's mercy. And we can understand there is no chance of advancement without these two. So thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And please pray that I would be able to develop them as well, so that I would be able to take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet and live up to the 5th verse of Shikshashtakam prayers, which is exactly about this. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddha kripaya tava pada pankaja sthita tuli sadrisham vichintaya. O son of Maharajananda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other, I have fallen into this ocean of material suffering. Please pick me up from this ocean and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Welcome. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. So is there anyone else that would like to ask any questions? We have a few more minutes remaining.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for such an enlightening class. I just had one question about the bow on the sole of Krishna's foot.
Oh, yeah.
How does that represent the life of a devotee? Again, I missed that, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Tiffany. So all the way from, where are you, in New York or anyway? All the way from
I'm in
New
Pennsylvania.
Jersey. From Pennsylvania, that's right. So, yeah, we were explaining that the bow is supposed to have the string, but the bow on Krishna's foot doesn't have a string. So, but actually the idea is that the string does exist, but we cannot see that string. It's invisible string. So in the same way, Krishna is an invisible string which is connected to the bow of devotee's life. And yeah, because without the string, the bow is useless, right? So Krishna's presence makes our life meaningful. And yeah, the bow can be used very nicely with a string. So
Okay,
that
thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for the wonderful enlightenment about the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. I just wanted to ask about the 4 berries you showed.
Oh yeah.
You did mention about sweet and sour in everything, but why 4?
Why 4? Yeah, well, actually 4 means the directions.
Okay.
And so, yeah, within the old, yeah, in any direction, the sweetest thing is Krishna's love. And actually, yeah, that this is the only meaning in our living on Jambudvip. Develop Krishna consciousness and specifically develop our attachment and love for Krishna. And yeah, I mean, blackberries are very interesting because as some of you might know, if you try to collect the blackberries, you also get the thorns, right? And it's literally impossible to collect blackberries without getting scratched by the thorns. So in this same way, developing our relationship with Krishna does not necessarily mean that we will get no scratches, no problems. Problems will be there because it's still the material world. But we got to get the best deal out of the bad bargain. So while we are still conditioned, if we focused on developing our relationship with Krishna, that will nourish us and be our saving grace.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for such an enlightening talk. I wanted to ask, are the particular markings on Lord Krishna's feet specific to Lord Krishna, or are they also present in other expansions of Krishna and other avatars?
Yeah, thank you, Minesh, and thank you for being instrumental in organizing this class as well. So yes, that Lord Krishna's markings are typical for Krishna, all of the 19, but they also appear, like there are many same signs, for example, at Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. And also Radharani has 19 signs on her lotus feet. And if you look at them side by side, you will see that certain signs are the same, but other signs are different. So Radha and Krishna are same and different at the same time. So, you know, and it creates a perfect combination. They share the same, many of the same qualities, but there are also differences between them which really attract them to each other.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Manish. All right.
Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of the talk very nicely. Thank you so much for your class, Maharaj. For me, it was really interesting to know that there's this correlation between the chapters of the first canto and the signs on Krishna's lotus feet. So it's definitely something I'll take away further. We hope that you'll be able to join us in person when we're able to resume our physical programs once again during your future visits to London and the UK. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rajanath Gopal Prabhu. It will be my pleasure to see you physically as well.
And hopefully people can hear about your many adventures. I mean, it was so wonderful for me to read about them in your days as Uttama Shlok Prabhu alongside Indrajuna Maharaj. So I'd now like to hand it over to Sai Gadvi, who's going to be leading the Damodar Ashtakam prayers for us all.
Hare Krishna. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to stay all the way through because I have another class for New York in a short while. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your lovely class, and thank you, Prabhu, for the introduction. So yeah, we're going to be singing Damodar Ashtakam on for today. Is Kartik, also Gopashtami. So happy Gopashtami to everyone. So if everyone can get up the words, and we're going to be singing from the start, and then we'll go through the translation after as well. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasita Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare Shri Radha Damodar ki jai, Yashoda Damodar ki jai. Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Satkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashoda Viyolukala Davamanam Param Rishtamatyanta Tuturdagopya Yashoda Viyolukala Davamanam Param Rishtamatyanta Tuturdagopya Krutantamunetra Yugmamrijantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satankanetram Krutantamunetra Yugmamrijantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Moshvashakam patire kankakanta Stita grivam damodaram bhakti badam Moshvashakam patire kankakanta Stita grivam damodaram Iti drikshva lila virananda kunde Shvagoshami majantam akyapayantam Iti drikshva lila virananda kunde Shvagoshami majantam akyapayantam Tadiyeshitagneshu bhakti-jita-tvam Una prematastam satavriti-vande Tadiyeshitagneshu bhakti-jita-tvam Una premastastam satavriti-vande Param deva mokshamna moksham vadimva nachanya vrine amba resadapiha Param deva mokshamna moksham vadimva nachanya vrine amba resadapiha Idam teva purnata gopala balam Sadame manasa virastam kimanyay Idam teva purnata gopala balam Sadame manasya virastam kimanye Idam te mukam bojam atyantanile Vritam kundaleshnigdharaktascha gopya Idam te mukam bojam atyantanile Vritam kundaleshnigdharaktascha gopya Mohoshchumitam bimbarakta-dadame Manasya virastamalam lakshalabe Mohoshchumitam bimbarakta-dadame Manasya virastamalam lakshalabe Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhuduka Jaladimanam Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhuduka Jaladimanam Kripa Drishti Vrishtyati Dinabatanu Grihaneshamamana Medyakshi Vrishtyan Kripa Drishti Vrishtyati Dinabatanu Grihaneshamamana Medyakshi Vrishtyan Kuviratmajo Pada Murti Vayadvat Tvaya Mochito Bhakti Bhajo Kirtocha Kuviratmajo Pada Murti Vayadvat Tvaya Mochito Bhakti Bhajo Kirtocha Tata prema bhaktim swakame prayacha Namokshe graho mesti damodareha Tata prema bhaktim swakame prayacha Namokshe graho mesti Namaste stu damne spuraditi damne Tvadi Damne Namastestu Damne Sfuraditi Damne Tvadiyodaraya Viswasya Damne Namo Radhikaya Tadiya Priyaya 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 Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Radhikaya Tadiya Priyaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Shri Radha Damodar ki jai, Yashoda Damodar ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So now I'm going to read through the translation of the Damodarashtakam. To the Supreme Lord, whose form is the embodiment of eternal existence, knowledge and bliss, whose shark-shaped earrings are swinging to and fro, who is beautifully shining in the divine realm of Gokul, who I, due to the offense of breaking the pot of yogurt that his mother was churning into butter, and then stealing the butter that was kept from hanging from a swing, is quickly running from the wooden grinding mortar in fear of Mother Yashoda, but who has been caught from behind by her, who ran after him with greater speed. To that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances. Seeing the whipping stick in his mother's hand, he is crying and rubbing his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes are filled with fear, and the necklace of pearls around his neck, which is marked with 3 lines like a conch shell, is shaking because of his quick breathing due to crying. To this Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, whose belly is bound not with ropes, but with his mother's pure love, I offer my humble obeisances. By such childhood pastimes as this, he is drowning the inhabitants of Gokul in pools of ecstasy and is revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of his supreme majesty and opulence that he is only conquered by devotees whose pure love is imbued with intimacy and is free from all conceptions of awe and reverence. With great love, I again offer my obeisances to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times. O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon, which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of Bhakti. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours as Bal Gopal in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart, for what is the use to me of any other boon besides this? O Lord, your lotus face, which is encircled by locks of soft black hair, tinged with red, is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, and your lips are reddish like the bimba fruit. May this beautiful vision of your lotus face be ever manifest in my heart. Thousands and thousands of other benedictions are of no use to me. O Supreme Godhead, I offer my obeisances unto you. O Damodar, O Ananta, O Vishnu, O Master, O my Lord, be pleased upon me. By showering your glance of mercy upon me, deliver this poor ignorant fool who is immersed in an ocean of worldly sorrows and become visible to your eyes. O Lord Damodar, just as the 2 sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nalakuvera, were delivered from the curse of Narada and made into great devotees by you in your form as a baby, tied with rope to a wooden grinding mortar, in the same way, please give me your own Prema Bhakti. I only long for this, and have no desire for any kind of liberation. O Lord Damodar, I first of all offer my obeisances to the brilliantly effulgent rope which binds your belly. I then offer my obeisances to your belly, which is the abode of the entire universe. I humbly bow down to your most beloved Srimati Radharani, And I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. Lord Damodar ki jai, Yashoda Damodar ki jai. Hare Krishna.